playground. Hooray!
Hey, it's Jeff Zito, and welcome to another episode of Celebrity Jobber, where we talk to famous people, quasi-famous sometimes, and basically, if it wasn't for them getting their big break, what they might be doing these days. It was funny because last week talked to Warren Haynes from Government Mule and the Allman Brothers, and I kind of reconnected with this woman named Barbara Strauss, who I've known for years and haven't talked to her in a long time. But she was, I believe, on the in the inner circle of the Allman Brothers at one point in time, and had a relationship with Greg Allman and the guys. So I sent her the Celebrity Jobber number 2 with Warren Haynes, and I sent it to her. And she got a kick out of it, and she responded to me by saying, just in case you were wondering, my first job was an instructor at the Fred Astaire Dance Studio. And, everybody's got a story. And especially what I find interesting is these famous people, if they didn't get their big break, maybe they would be doing something entirely different, Maybe, the guys from Queen all have college degrees. And I think it was Roger Taylor who was going to be a dentist. I mean, he was going to be a dentist. That's what he would be doing if he wasn't playing in Queen. He'd be working on your crowns. And I think that's just incredibly interesting. So I wanted to do a podcast about celebrities, and if they didn't get their big break, maybe they did go to school for engineering, or they were, janitors at a high school. I mean, who knows? Our guest this week is one of the founders of the band Skid Row, and I'm incredibly happy to talk with our next guest because he's a Jersey guy. I'm a Jersey guy. You might hear me slip back into my Jersey accent. It usually happens when I talk to my buddies. Founding member of Skid Row, guitarist Dave the Snake Sabo. From Jersey, Dave, whereabouts? Or should I say, what exit?
Sayreville. I was born in Perth Amboy, raised in Sayreville.
So, do you live there now or no?
No, I moved to Homedale in 1990, and then I moved to California, to Los Angeles in 2001, and then now I live in Amity Harbor, Long Island since 2000.
Well, I was going to ask you a question about this little place on Route 9. It was called Bourbon Street. I wanted to know if you guys were privy to that joint.
I had my name embedded in the walls there. I could have bought a house with the amount of money I spent there. That was our place, man. We would be there at least a couple nights a week.
Bro, okay. So, I mean, look, I live currently in Tampa, Florida, which is the strip club capital of the world.
Yeah.
But I will say this, and I've been to a lot of them. I will say Bourbon Street on Route 9 in New Jersey, in Perth Amboy, or wherever the hell it is, definitely is one of my top 3 of anywhere that I've ever been. And I'm talking, late 80s, early 90s, somewhere in there.
It was great, man. We knew we were really good friends with the owners, and that place would be packed every night. And the DJ was great. All the girls were great. The mayhem and the partying that went on in that place was legendary.
That's awesome, man. So let's talk about Skid Row. You guys formed in the mid '80s, and how did this happen? Like, I know there, online you'll hear that you were friends with John Bon Jovi, and you don't know if all that kind of stuff was true, but were you friends with John? Did you play in a band with John? How did Skid Row come to be in the mid '80s?
Well, I grew up with John, and we're still best buddies. And I played in a band with them right before they became Bon Jovi. And it was only, I wasn't like, I was just filling in until he found the right guy. He had asked me to help him put a band together. He had to do some radio shows that he had committed to, so he had to fulfill a commitment and needed to put a band together quick. And so I helped him do that. And then I think I was 18 at the time. And then after that, I happened to be working down at a music store in Toms River, New Jersey, and I would see this guy who looked like a rock star come in all the time, and it happened to be Rachel Bolan. And so we struck up a conversation with each other and realized that we were the primary songwriters in our respective bands. And we said, you know what, why don't we get together and see if we can write together, see what happens. So we did, and it was a cool experience. And so we kept doing it, and we decided, we're like, you know what, we should probably form a band around this partnership. And that's exactly what we did. And so 37 years later, we're still partners.
That's awesome, man. So tell me about this music store gig. Was that your first job, Dave?
Oh, no. My first job, I was working with my brother on his tractor trailer in the summertime. I worked for the township, painting fire hydrants. I've worked in warehouses. I've worked in being dishwasher. I've worked as a bar manager at a nightclub. I've worked selling tools out of the back of my truck. I mean, I've done it all. So that it wasn't the first job, but it was the last job.
Oh, the music store was the last real job that you had.
Absolutely.
Wow. You ever think about this, Dave? Like, if it wasn't for your big break, if you never met Rachel Bolan, if you never, formed Skid Row and sold millions and millions of albums, and 37 years later, you weren't who you were. You were just Dave Sabo. What do you think you'd be doing if it wasn't for your big break with Skid Row?
Well, at that point, when we had put Skid Row together, I mean, I was focused on nothing but music. I was going to be doing something in music. I was going to be playing guitar, and I was going to be making music for a living. That just wasn't, there was no question about that in my mind, and I would do anything to make that happen. There was no quit in me whatsoever. If it didn't work out somewhere, I would go somewhere else to make it work out. If that didn't work out, I would figure out a way, no matter what, to make it work.
You were a pretty athletic guy in high school. I understand that you were a baseball player and that you were really good, and you could have kind of pursued baseball if music didn't get in the way.
It was all Kiss's fault. I was a pitcher, and I was pretty good at it, apparently. And people had aspirations for me to go further with it. And I had every intention of doing that until I saw Kiss on December 16th, 1977 at Madison Square Garden, and that changed everything. And that got the ball rolling in my head that I have to be a part of this thing that I just saw, this 4th of July explosion of a circus, and to be a part of that relationship that they had with their audience. And I just could not believe what I had seen. And it changed my life. It literally changed my life. Because I walked down to there, and I knew I was going to do something in music. I didn't know how. And so it didn't come until about a year and a half later, or a year later, when I picked up the guitar. And that's when everything got set in motion. But I knew at that point, as I walked out of that Kiss concert, that I was going to be involved in music somehow.
Was it like instant, Dave? Like you saw Kiss, it changed your life, and then you go back to school, to the team the next day, and you're like, Coach, this just isn't for me, man. I'm moving in a different direction. Was it like an instant thing where you quit baseball right then and there to focus on guitar and music?
Well, like I said, I didn't find the guitar until a year later. So I kept playing baseball, but my heart wasn't in it like it was. I was still searching for what it was going to be that I was going to be. And, my brother had a guitar in the house that he played for about 3 weeks, and he had no interest in it anymore. And I was like, well, here's an opportunity for me to outdo my brother at something, that brotherly competition. And so I picked up the guitar, and I started playing, and I could not believe that you could make these amazing sounds out of this instrument. It just blew me away. It still does to this day. And so I picked it up, and I never put it down. And that was been my sole focus, and my sole drive was to play guitar and then write music and make music for a living.
Is that your main hobby, Dave? Like, I'm friends with Tony from Godsmack, and he used to be a big golfer, and be like, hey, man, let's go play golf. And he's like, I can't. It gets in the way of me playing guitar. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? He's like, it's 4 hours on the golf course, and I can't be playing guitar. So, like, he quit golf because it got in the way of him playing guitar. Is that like you, or do you have other interests and or hobbies?
Well, now it's not like that, but yeah, when we were first forming the band, I mean, and before that, everything was guitar. I quit all sports, and all I did was play guitar in my room and write music and go looking to be a part or form a band. And so I just had blinders on, and I was just moving forward with it. And so but later on in life, as we got on the road and started touring, I would start going to play golf again, and I would play in some tournaments here and there. I love the game of golf, so I'm glad that I was able to rediscover it.
Here's an interesting fact. I played golf with a lot of different musicians. One of the best golfers that you'd probably never, ever expect was any good would be a former Slipknot percussionist, Chris Fain. Played golf with him several times. Actually tried to wrestle an alligator. The guy's from Iowa, so didn't really know anything about gators. Tried to wrestle an alligator while we played golf, but I think it was like a 7 or 8 handicap. Pretty good golfer. Shot, I think he broke 80 a couple times that I played with him. You would never think the guy in Slipknot was a good golfer. But I digress. Dave, Skid Row's got a new album coming out, and like you were telling me earlier, 37 years, man. It's not easy. It's like 4 or 5 guys traveling around in a bus. You're around each other all the time. It's like you're brothers. You love each other. Then you fight. I mean, how do you keep it going? How do you stay positive? How do you keep from getting jaded?
Well, music is a very humbling business. It'll ground you quickly. But we were raised, Rachel, Scotty, and I were raised in lower middle class families that taught us about humility and graciousness and about always being thankful for whatever good comes your way. Success is not a birthright. It's something that you work for, you work hard for, and you be thankful for when it comes. So we had a lot of ups and downs in the history of our band, but the one thing that has always kept us together is loving the music that we make and loving the people that we make it with. And when that doesn't happen anymore, then it's time to make a change. And so that's what's happened with us. And now we found a guy in Eric Gronwall who is just, he's cut from the same cloth as us, same sense of humor, same influences, same work ethic, same desire to make this band the best band it could possibly be. So it's the love of the music. It's the love of creating something from nothing, the wonderment that is, and being proud of what you're able to accomplish with those around you. And the best part about it for me is I get to go up on stage and play really cool music with people that I just really love and admire.
All right, talking about a lot of ups and downs within the history of the band Skid Row, and let's focus on lead singers And you've had a lot of them. Started with Matt Fallon, then, of course, Sebastian Bach, who you've had a lot of success with. Johnny Solinger, who unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. And now, most recently, the Swedish guy, Eric Gronwall, which I had no idea was a contestant on the Swedish version of American Idol. But was it true that he was quietly battling cancer a few years ago, got a bone marrow transplant, and is now in total remission?
It's all true. He's a survivor, man, and you can tell that doesn't go unnoticed by him. He takes every day and just lives it to its fullest. He absolutely lives in the moment, and he has such an air of positivity about him and around him that it's infectious. And so, he's on a mission, and I'm glad that we're with him.
Dave, we know you're the founding member and guitarist of the band Skid Row. We talked about your first job. And is it true that you work with Doc McGee's management company and you actually manage bands yourself?
Yes, it's correct. I do. I work with Doc and Scott McGee, and I work with other artists that hopefully I can sort of be a help in guiding them and steering them away from the pitfalls that are prevalent in our business.
You have a band that you manage? Is there anybody that I would know that you're direct manager for?
The band Down.
Oh, yeah.
Philip Anselmo. I manage a kid by the name of Caleb Johnson. He was also an American Idol winner in, I think, 2015.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, that name sounds familiar. The one thing that I wanted to tell you before I had this interview with you, I went to Twitter. I looked up Dave Snake Sabo, and that got me to a gentleman's page who was in the adult film industry. And I said, whoop, I got the wrong Dave Snake Sabo here. I don't know if you've ever run across that or not, but there's a guy out there that exists that took a little different career path than you did. But I wanted to ask you how you got the name Snake.
Oh, it was because I was like a 12, 13-year-old kid, and I had a ridiculously long chest hair, my only long chest hair, and we were playing basketball up the street during the summertime, and we were playing shirts and skins, and I was on the skins, and John Bon Jovi was playing, and he saw this disgusting hair. He goes, dude, get rid of that. I'm like, no, man, I'm like becoming a man. And he goes, it's gross. It looks like a snake. I'm like, whatever. And so every day we play basketball, he'd call me Snake.
So Bon Jovi is actually credited with coining your nickname.
Yes, pretty much.
I never knew. The gang's all here. New album, Skid Row, Dave Snake Sabo. I'm so glad you're in a band, you're playing in Skid Row, and you're not painting fire hydrants, Dave.
Me too. I couldn't be happier.
Good luck with everything, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks, buddy. Be safe down there, all right?
Will do. I appreciate it.
All right, take care.
Man, I didn't know John Bon Jovi gave him the nickname over a long, curly, cute chest hair. That's a pretty cool story. Dave Snake Sabo had a lot of jobs. Seemed like he was a government guy, worked a lot for the local township there in New Jersey. And you know what? If he wasn't in Skid Row, who knows? He might have been on one of those trucks painting the yellow lines down the middle of the road. You don't know. Glad things worked out for him in the music biz. I had a lot of jobs, too. I was thinking about doing this podcast, and my first job, I could probably take it all the way back to being a paper boy. I would have to say that was my first job. It's probably about 11 or 12 years old, delivering an afternoon paper in New Jersey 3 days a week called the Courier News. But I remember saving up my money, about $65 or $70, and I bought myself a new skateboard. And, I probably could have asked my mom and dad to buy me the new skateboard, and they would have got it for me. I was pretty lucky growing up. But it was something about me saving that money and going to the skate shop and picking out the skateboard that I could afford and purchasing it with my own money. That was a pretty cool feeling. I also worked at golf courses. Washed golf clubs, worked the register as the old people wanted to go and play golf. I'd sign them in. I was 16 years old, and I worked as a busboy at a dinner theater. Man, that job really taught me a lot. Was kind of sheltered, didn't know much about the real world, if you will. And at 16 years old, going into a dinner theater, there was a LGBT crowd that worked there in the theater that I was never exposed to, and met these two dudes, George and Fred, who were partners both at work and at home. And boy, did those guys teach me a lot about life. I love those guys. Think about some of the earlier jobs that you had shaped you, the person you are today. Earning money in the paper route, got my own purchasing power, and being around people that were different than you and learning they're really not that much different than you. Celebrities aren't that much different than us. They've got a story. They've had a first job. And you know what? They weren't an actor or in a rock band or the host of The Price is Right. Who knows? They might be selling corn dogs at the state fair or building swimming pools. All right, thanks for listening. I'm Jeff Zito, and we'll see you next week with a fresh episode of Celebrity Jobber.